Before I start the review about this Keemake 7-inch Nakiri knife, I want to talk about AliExpress. More and more Chinese manufacturers are selling their knives on Amazon, but then for a higher price. The main differences are the warranty, the packaging and the price. Cheaper knives will get less protective packaging. What all the sellers on AliExpress do is pack the knife in bubble plastic and then tape it around. So in most cases the gift box that the knives are in will get a dent from the outside. But the most important thing is that the knives are undamaged. It depends on the manufacturer what you get inside the box. Most of the knives are well protected against shipping damage. All the knives that I got from China has a protective cover for the tip. Some of them do have the same cover for the heel. If you want to give someone these knives from China to someone else, they need to consider that the packaging will get damaged from the outside. Besides the damage, the box is actually very nice. Now let's start the review of the Nakiri knife from Keemake Sunnecko. It may not look like a Nakiri knife, but more on that later. The hammered look and the Damascus layers are looking very nice on this knife. Unfortunately, a hammered look comes with a downside. As you can see, the spine of the blade has a few dents. And that is because of the hammered look. In terms of performance and personally, it did not bother me at all. It is hard to see on camera where the dents are, but you can see them. Now onto the handle, you can see that this is not wood. The seller calls these kind of handles G10. In other words, it is fiberglass. It looks exactly the same as the 8-inch chef's knife from Keemake. I really like the G10 handle. They are not slippery like the handles from Global. And the big advantage is that you don't have to maintain it. The seller and manufacturer is selling this knife as a Nakiri knife. However, the profile itself does not look like a Nakiri. In my opinion, it is too round to be a Nakiri knife. The profile itself is exactly like the profile of a Santoku knife. The spine of the knife looks exactly like a Kirutsuke. This is a very strange form, but I like it. In my opinion, this knife should be a Santoku knife and not sold as a Nakiri. The knife weighs around 271 grams. The handle of the knife feels very comfortable in my hand. It reminded me exactly like the Wushof handles. The knife has a comfortable bolster where you can rest your thumb on it. The design of the knife and the handle promotes a pinch grip. Since the handle and the design promotes a pinch grip, the balance points should be at the bolster. The knife is well balanced, but of course this depends on the knife design and the purpose of the knife. The balance points depends on how you hold the knife. For example, the balance point of a Yanagiba should not be at the bolster. As you can see, if you hold a Yanagiba at the bolster, it will be front heavy. A Yanagiba should be balanced for a fingertip grip. And therefore the balance point should be around the logo of the knife. And as you can see, the balance point is exactly at my index finger. The core material that this knife uses is Austan. Austan is made in Japan, so they imported a Japanese steel to create this knife. Austan has a Rockwell hardness of 60. In other words, the knife will remain sharp for a longer period of time. But on the other hand, it is also more brittle. So if used incorrectly, it will chip. Therefore, you should not use this knife to cut through bones, frozen food or other hard stuff. Since the profile is a Santoku profile, it is suitable for boneless meat and vegetables. A traditional Western chef knife is designed to do a rock slicing motion. In other words, for the best cutting performance of a Western chef's knife, you need to have the tip on the cutting board at all times. Otherwise, the chances are that you won't cut through the vegetables completely. A Santoku knife is less forgiving. It can do the same as the chef's knife, but then without the tip on the cutting board. So it depends on your habits and your slicing technique in order for you to decide which knife you want, a chef's knife or a Santoku knife. In terms of performance about this chef's knife and this Santoku knife, it is pretty much the same. But don't be confused by the seller that sells this knife as a Nakiri knife. I really wanted to love this knife, however, there was a slight bend on the tip and the edge. It is barely visible, but I'm very sensitive when it comes to the straight line of the edge. It can be that I'm unlucky and that this is the only knife that has a bend on it. However, I wish that the quality control of the knives were better than this. I also have a chef's knife from the same seller, and with that knife everything was completely fine. If it wasn't for the bend on the edge and the heel, I would highly recommend this knife to you. The knife that I got and the bend on it can be easily fixed with whetstones. But that's something that I don't want to do with new knives yet. As a consumer, I expect the knives to be completely straight out of the factory. If you have any questions, leave them behind in the comment section below. And if you are wondering why you have seen this knife before, that is because this knife is made by one of the manufacturers that also make knives for Dollstrong. Subscribe to know more about this Kiritsuke knife.